Kelin,
Joe,
let's do this.
let's do the thing.
What do you got?
So I've been thinking,
Yeah.
and I need to know if I'm the only weirdo out there or not. Do you have any like weird, irrational fears? Things that just like, yeah. You're either afraid of them, you're disgusted by them, things that you think most people are not bothered by that you're really bothered by?
I have a collection of annoyances, but no real fears.
Annoyances. But nothing like, not something that somebody does, but like a thing. Not that you can think of.
Not that I can think
forgot
of.
you're Superman. So,
Or crazy as hell.
or
One of the two.
crazy, just really unbothered. I am bothered by really weird things.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, we'll start with the simplest one. Armadillos. Have you ever seen an armadillo in person?
When I went through Texas, I wanted to see an armadillo so bad and was deprived. of it. Why? What?
I literally or do this.
Why?
When I think about them. I think it's the shell. It grosses me out so bad. Like, I wouldn't say it's a fear. Like, if I saw a snake, that's a fear. I'm not going near a snake. I'm not even going in the same room as a snake. The armadillo makes me want to rip my skin off. It is so disgusting. And I think it's the shell. It might be the hair. I don't know. I can't look at them. I can't look at a picture of them. If we go eat at like Texas Roadhouse where they have them everywhere, I'm like, walk to my table.
Really?
Can't even. Ugh. And I lived in the South for a while. And like, that's basically the roadkill. Here it's skunks and things like that. There it's armadillo. And I'm always like, oh God.
So my relationship with armadillos are through cartoons only. So how are they big? Like what size are they?
They're like
Bowling ball size?
yeah. I've never seen one in person rolled up, and I think you can have little ones and big ones, but yeah, they're like maybe like a small raccoon.
All right, so they're not like a rat. I can see if they were.
Oh no, they're bigger than a
ratish.
rat.
Okay, bigger than a rat.
Bigger
more like
than
a
a
raccoon.
rat.
Okay.
Or like a very small cat, maybe. So yeah, they're a small animal, and we used to go camping all the time. There's a place down south called Uchi Creek, and we'd be like walking out in the evenings, and you can hear them running like in the woods or on the side of the trails, and I'm just like, so help me God, if one comes out, you won't be able to handle it. They gross me out.
Let me analyze, and let's see if we can get to the origin of this fear /
disgust,
aggravation, disgust. So when did you start hating the armadillo?
I don't know.
All right, so when you were 5 years old, if I took my time machine, visited you at 5 and said, how do you feel about armadillos? You would say, they disgust me.
I probably was pretty young, and the only reason I say that, I thought this started when I lived down south, but now that I think about it, I remember being a kid, and I still lived here near Youngstown, and there was a restaurant in the Boardman Plaza called Armadillos, and I remember even being grossed out by that.
How old were you?
Gosh, maybe middle school age.
Okay, let's roll it back.
don't
We got to
even
get to
know.
the origin. There's going to be a seed in there, some trauma, right, that exercised your disgust. So you're a teenager. Go back a little bit before that. Before being a teenager, what was your first run-in, either with the name or the likeness or the real armadillo? When's the first time?
Real one?
Either way, because this might stem from imagination, where you maybe in a dream were attacked by one. Maybe you saw a movie, and in the movie, the armadillo did unspeakable things to somebody. We got to find that moment.
Honestly, it's like when I think about it, what stands out to me is the shell. I'm very grossed out by the lines. This may be attached to my second one. I wonder, maybe if I tell you what the second thing of mine is, you'll be like, oh, I'm seeing a pattern here.
Okay.
Maybe. And I have to Google the word real quick just to see before I tell you what it is, if you even know what it is, because I didn't even know there was a name for it. Oh, God, I can't even Google it. Trypophobia.
Never heard of that. What is it?
I have trypophobia. It's a fear of holes. Not just any holes. Okay, it's actually a fear or a strong disgust. And I think mine is disgust. And I'm going to click images and not look at it.
Oh.
So basically, oh God. So lots and lots of little holes all together.
Okay.
You see them in whatever those things are called, those plants and stuff. Yeah. I've seen them. Oh God, there's some home decor. I saw a Halloween decoration a couple years ago, and it was just a bunch of little skulls. And because it was skulls with eyes, there were a bunch of holes in a range. I wonder if the armadillo shell looks like that.
I was gonna ask, like, what is the connection? Do they have plates that look like holes?
It's not even really holes, which is why I don't get it. But are you Googling?
Yeah, just don't look.
Ugh. They're so gross looking. I can't take. The tail is gross. Oh my God. I just looked ahead and there's a screen. Oh my God. They're just, oh God. Like this.
So you don't like the
doing
repeated,
this.
you don't like the repeated patterns then?
Yeah, I
What
think
about
so.
scales? Like if you looked at.
I don't like scales.
So if I brought up like a day gecko.
Oh.
You don't like it?
That's not as bad, maybe because he's got neat colors, but I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it at
and
all.
What about dinosaurs? Do you like any dinosaurs?
T-Rexes seem cool.
With the scales, like if it had a repeating
I've never
patterns?
really looked at that closely at a dinosaur's scales, but I don't like snakes. I don't like lizards. I don't know. What's an armadillo considered? A mammal?
Yeah, you really can't see the
Yeah.
scale pattern. What about like a snapping turtle?
Ugh, I don't care for turtle skin. That's what it is. It's the pattern on them. Ooh, I don't like it. Oh, I don't like it. That one's not, again, as bad, but I don't care for it. Like, when you pulled up that armadillo, I had to like scratch
So it's
the
really,
table.
I'm going to take emphasis off the armadillo because it's not the armadillo that you hate. It's the pattern.
That's gotta
that
be.
he
Oh
wears.
my God, you have cracked this guy new. If anybody could crack the code, it would be you. It's the pattern.
But the patterns thing, I'm going to have to refer you out to a specialist because
Is that not the weirdest thing?
now we have to analyze what about patterns, right?
Yeah.
That is objectionable to your mind.
I get the sensation in my hands, like when I see a bunch of patterns like that, I want to scrape them up, like. And I think that is maybe me wanting to dissipate it, like get rid of it, mess it up. Ugh. Ugh. Like, I feel like my hands do this when I'm around it. If I see the trypophobia stuff, which I don't even think I'm the only one. If you Google trypophobia, anyone, and you see that,
I don't think it's
I think a lot of people hate
I don't even
that.
think it's holes. I think it's repetition
Yes.
and patterns.
Patterns.
You familiar with the golden ratio?
No.
Okay, so in nature, sort of like cell replication and the way that things develop, they follow a pattern outwardly. And so like if you, and there's actually a numeral system that goes along with it, but let me show you what the pattern looks like and you can kind of see, bring in an alert.
Okay.
Okay, so there's this natural development where it basically replicates outwardly and you can see...
That's like a shell almost,
yeah.
like a seashell.
Okay,
Oh,
and so
oh.
so you see all of these things that follow the golden ratio of development are like sunflowers and what?
I've seen a sunflower before though, and it doesn't bother me. But that picture bothers me.
Because of the
down
perfect
there, it bothers
patterns.
me.
These are illustrating the perfect patterns
Oh.
do all of these bother you?
Not all of them. The
Okay.
rose I am totally fine with.
Okay, because it's broken pattern. I see that. The
The
agave.
That's okay. Oh, that one's getting to me a little bit.
Okay.
Those I'm okay with. Yeah, it's some of them. It's almost like the smaller it is, maybe.
The more tighter it is?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are basically the golden ratio affects you.
Why?
The golden ratio affects you.
The golden ratio. That's what you just held up there?
Yeah.
You Googled golden ratio.
Yeah.
Why?
Why are you opposed to the golden ratio?
Yeah.
I don't know. Nature
That's
is
weird.
cruel and mean and destructive and scary. So you might be opposed to all of nature.
Well, I like some nature. I like being out in nature, walking around in nature.
As long as it doesn't have repeated patterns, then you're fine.
Could that be why? So last weekend we were hiking. We were camping out in Cherry Ridge near Hawking Hills. We were walking through the woods. There was a long, like a log, like a part of a tree that was laying on the ground, and like fungus was growing on it, which fungus is kind of gross anyways. But the pattern in which it was growing, I went, ugh, mess it up. Like I just want someone to scrape it off or something. That's
Okay.
what it is. It's patterns.
It's patterns. It's repetition of patterns.
Yeah, because even like when you Google the triphobia or whatever it's called, it's not always holes. You know, it says fear or extreme disgust of holes, but really it's anything that is that close together. Because I've even seen, have you ever seen it where like people have those, what are they called? Googly eyes, the sticky little eyes that move. I've seen videos where people just have a whole bunch all over their face and, can't do that either. And I'm fine with eyes.
There's a couple of branches that you can take to really find what the origin. Now, are you looking to conquer this, or are you cool with this?
Normally, it does not disrupt my life unless I either one, accidentally see an image like that and I just get disgusted, or because my kids know that I hate armadillos. Anytime we see one, they like to point it out.
Well, now you can take that off of it because there's many creatures that would bring out the armadillo response. Like if I
Yeah.
showed you a close-up of a spider's face or the eyeballs on a fly, right?
Yeah, I probably
You ever
wouldn't
see any
like
of those?
it. I know I have. It's been a while.
Let's see if you have that same reaction. To it.
Okay, maybe because I don't normally see it.
Eye.
Oh God!
Did it do it? Fly eyes?
Some of them, I don't like it.
The closer it up.
That's disgusting. That first one I don't like.
And then we'll do a spider.
Which could be why maybe some lizards, I don't care for lizards, but if it's small enough, I don't. Oh, God.
Does it do something for you?
Yeah, I don't like it. Oh, I don't like. I don't like it. And I just thought I had aversion to these animals, like they were just gross animals. That's why they are gross.
Yeah. Well, you think about it, though. It's manifesting in an animal. And animals that have lots of eyeballs and faces could be dangerous. And if you don't, if you have adapted through evolution to avoid animals that could kill you, ones that have hundreds of eyeballs or have repeating patterns, maybe you stay away from as a protective mechanism.
Like snakes. Snakes I'm actually fearful of too, but also
that's
they're
a double
disgusting.
whammy. Yeah.
Like
You don't like their patterns and you don't like the fact that some of them are venomous.
that's probably why I'm extra like
Yeah. It's a
aversion to
protective
snakes.
mechanism. I'm going to say what you're feeling is healthy.
I'm literally like my muscles got all tight.
Yeah, we
from
just had a
looking at it.
session here.
Ugh.
All right. Do you want to bring up another irrational fear and we can get off the fear of all things natural?
Well, there is one, and I don't know where it came from. It's not a fear. It's not a disgust. I have a very noticeable change in me when I hear a certain song. I might have even told you about this before. It's Starship's Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now.
I used to sing that at the top of my lungs as a kid.
It's a good song. I love the song. I have no ill will towards the actual song. It could come on and I'm like, that's a good song. But for as long as I can remember, I feel worried when I hear it. I
Why?
get worried. So I have tried repeatedly to like sit with it. Like song comes on, I close my eyes and I just feel, why am I worried? And the only thing I have found is it is very much tied to after worry. My next thought is, I'm a grown up now. I don't have to be scared. That's my next thought. I'm a grown up. I'm in control. I don't have to be worried. And I'm like, okay, must have been something from childhood. And I can picture my very first house that I remember being born in, being little in. So it was that time frame. It had to have been like late 80s, early 90s. When did the song come out? 90 something.
No, it was 80s. That
was
late
it?
80s.
Okay,
yeah.
so that
88,
makes
89.
sense. It had to have been late 80s, early 90s because I was little in this house. I moved out of that house in second grade. So second grade or younger, worried all the time. And I've talked to my parents about it. I've tried to just sit and let my imagination run wild. And the only thing I can think of is I was a very high-strung, anxious little kid. Like school made me anxious, getting in trouble made me anxious, everything. And my parents, they got divorced when I was like 17. But my mom says we fought a lot. Maybe we were fighting a lot. Maybe the house was tense when you were that age. Could have been. That's the only thing I can think of. But
that's what makes music so powerful is it connects in the brain and allows memories to be populated and remembered and reminisced. And that's why people usually have a really good relationship with the songs they hear because they bring them back to a memory that is good.
Yeah.
Right? You've got a trauma moment. It could have been something silly. You could have been worrying about your Easy Bake Oven catching on fire and the song comes on your Walkman and now you associate those two.
It could have been something, something happened at school. It upset me and that song was popular.
But you have the ability now to reprogram that song. So it takes you back to a new moment. We'll substitute it, set it up. So you take your little cassette player, play Starship, right? Be doing something that brings you great joy and repeat it about 150 times in a row. And that way when the song comes on, you'll go back to the joyful moment and you'll be reprogrammed.
That's a good idea. Because, I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's not, it's not affecting my life in that, I feel awful when it's on, but it's weird.
Your subconscious is holding on to something. So you have another option too. You can either reprogram the memory space so that you get a new association, or you can have someone hypnotize you and play the song while you're hypnotized, and then your subconscious will recall the moment that is causing the anxiety. And if it's a person, then you could just go kill the person and be done with it, and then you'll have justice for whatever was making you anxious. That's probably not the better of those two options, though.
And I don't think it was anything that serious. I don't think like something horrible happened to me.
In the life of a 6-year-old, when they're hearing that song, there can't be anything that is not conquerable somehow.
Yeah, I think it was just, dumb kid stuff that upset me. And that song was very popular at that time. I don't, speaking of hypnotism, I don't feel that I can be hypnotized. I've heard some people can and can't be. I think I'm in my head too much. That if anyone were to attempt to hypnotize me, I would be like, am I hypnotized yet? Is it working yet? Is this what hypnotized feels like? Are they doing it now? Like, I couldn't shut that off.
I would think the people who can't be hypnotized by other people have the ability to hypnotize themselves because they're not overthinking it and questioning it. Learning what's actually happening, you're turning off the conscious brain and allow the subconscious brain to sort of have a voice. But if your conscious brain is thinking about the person's about to dupe you and make you, bark like a dog and make fun of you and whatever, you never quiet the conscious brain low enough so the subconscious could be, have a voice or anything like that. But if you quieted yourself down and you meditated and you started digging through subconscious thoughts and took the inner dialogue and voice and shelved it for a little bit, I have a feeling you get to talk with your subconscious. You should try it sometime.
But you don't think I'd be sitting there like, am I now talking with my subconscious? Like I would still be.
But I'm saying that you have access to it. I don't know if you could quiet your conscious brain enough to actually accomplish it. So you might just do that.
Like, how do you shut up your conscious brain?
It's a practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And enlightenment and like the monks and the people who take this seriously, where they go into meditation and they literally try to take every thought. Like there are instructions, and years ago I went through my meditation phase, and I had the same deal where I had so many concurrent thoughts in my head. I'd quiet one and another would pop up and a quiet one, and so you just go through that, and instead of trying to fight it, is that you organize it. You take your holes and put it in its own little hole.
Oh God.
and you gave it a place where you diffused it so that you ended the query, right?
Put it
Now,
in a little box,
yeah.
light it on fire.
Yeah. So, but if you ask too many open-ended questions, like you worry about things that you can't do anything about, or you worry about things that you're not involved in, it's almost impossible to quiet it enough because there is no answers, or there are no answers to what you're thinking about. So there's no way to actually quell it. And it's a way through that enlightenment, you figure out how you're organizing thoughts and how many poisonous toxin ones that are in there that aren't doing any good except for taking brain cycles away from you.
Yeah.
And you're like, I need to get to my enlightened deal. So I got to stop populating my brain with so much drama and gossip, and that's what it ends up being.
I saw a video once, and it's probably the closest I've ever come to just quieting the mind. And this guy was so cool, but it's only temporary for me. He said, if you're trying to meditate and you're trying to just like really not think about anything, he says, you close your eyes and you tell yourself, you ask yourself in your head, I wonder what my next thought will be. And when I did that, there was legit several seconds of nothing in my head. And so I'll just sit there and be like, I wonder what my next thought will be. And then, but then of course, oh my God, it worked. That's so cool. Oh, that's neat.
You can delay that so that, yes, things will pop in your head, but you can push it further and further out. So when you meditate, you might only get 30 seconds of meditation or even a second of meditation. And you're like, oh, well, that kind of worked. Let me extend that. And then you can go minutes and hours worth of nothing. So think about this. You go into the hospital, right? And they're like, you're going to do a surgery and I'm going to knock you out, right?
Yeah.
And you get the shot and you have no memory of what's going on. Your brain came to like a halt. It was only running operations that were absolutely necessary. So you're like, how do I replicate only having things like my breathing? All right, let's pay attention to my breathing and my heartbeat and only do the stuff that in the hospital my brain would be doing. Let's try that for a half hour. And figuring out like when the other things trigger, that is your problem-solving brain or your whatever parts of your brain. And you're like, no, that's not your turn yet. Get back in line and put it under your command a little bit. But I don't think you and everybody else can quiet their mind enough to actually achieve it. I think it takes trickery from someone who does these things to get people to overcome. So if you're thinking about them, they're not thinking about you and your problems and your anxieties, and they can kind of short circuit you into a mode that you couldn't get there on your own. But if you truly just can't get over the fact the person is manipulating you, right? Then you're going to have to do it internalized. But both are equally as, possible.
So how do you know then when if you're meditating in order to think about something, you want to find the answer to something, you want to explore something, how do you then know when you have reached the thoughts you do want in your head rather than just wandering thoughts?
So every once in a while, you'll get like a kick up from your subconscious brain in the form of like intuition or inspiration. That's the part of your brain that you want to listen to and talk to. The rest of those are your conscious brain. They're trying to give you solutions to things and things that they've concocted. You ever like come across a detail? Like I do this when I misplace something, right? And most people will like retrace their steps and walk back through and then visual cues to see. I do that in my brain where I have my subconscious brain wander through areas and it will show me and tell me stuff that I know I did not process when I walked through that room in the first place, right? So we did this practice is what we do is like we go into a restaurant and after we're out of the restaurant, we'll ask questions. And this is my family. And we'll say, hey, when there was a family that was in the corner. What were they wearing on their head? Right? And you didn't know that. You can think of that. But if it's in their subconscious, something will occur to them and they'll say, I think they were wearing a red hat. And I'll be like, boom, you got it. That was your subconscious giving you information that it saw, but didn't put through your conscious brain where you were able to process
They do that on the show Criminal Minds.
Do they?
They say when you walk past a person, even if you weren't paying attention to them, you happen to glance at them, you weren't paying attention. And somebody says, oh, what did that guy look like? You're like, I don't know. I didn't really look. You did, though. So think about it. And they take these people that can then tell them who just walked past them. But I saw another video. It was like They did something where you're sitting in a room and they said, think about brown. All the brown things in the room. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of brown in the room. Okay, now close your eyes. Okay, what was red? And you're like, oh, I was focusing on brown. But they were like, but what was red? And then I could say, there was a red thing over here. There was a red thing over here, and it's just so cool.
Yeah, and we put so much of our emphasis on the conscious brain that when we try to think of the red thing, we're going to a part of our brain that didn't process that thing. So we get frustrated knowing that we can't come up with that information. We got senses that are constantly feeding our mind information. And there's only some of it that registers through memory of observation and, actually processing. But that other information is there. It just needs to be recalled. But since we trust the higher brain more than the lower brain, it gets more exercise. So if you exercise things that went in but you didn't process, then you get more familiar with what part of your brain is talking to you.
So do you think this meditation practice can help with the whole holes pattern?
Yeah, you could probably get the information that you're looking for by asking a different part of your brain of what caused it.
Like, why do I have this aversion?
And when you walk up to it, like, oh, it was just that. Now you settle it down. But your brain kind of keeps it in limbo because it doesn't know what to do with it, right?
Yeah.
And so it keeps this fear alive, thinking that you're ready to act on it. And it's just a misfire. Once you satisfy that, then the anxiety goes away. And when you go back to the next time, it says, problem solved. And if you already, dispatched the person who caused the anxiety, you're in good shape.
So you can look at those images and you don't feel at all in discomfort or unease.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I gravitate towards that type of ratio, that type of order.
When I Googled tripo whatever phobia and hit images, none of that bothered you.
Not at all.
That's weird. It bothers me so much I can't imagine someone else not being bothered
and
by
that's
it.
the thing, like when you hear songs or have visuals like that and there's a part of your brain that registers that it affects, that's your material. That's how you practice, right? Is like the stuff you're used to, it's over practice, so you know how to go to those segments of your brain. It's the stuff that's a little quieter, like when does intuition happen? If I was like, go do some intuition, right? Get some good suggestions from your subconscious, what would be the practice of it? Well, a lot of people would go clear their mind and then intuition pops in there. If you don't ever have that practice, you get intuition when it gets so dense that it pushes itself in your brain, and then you activate on the intuition.
So is this why then I always say I do my best thinking when I'm like getting ready to go somewhere, where I'm just putting on my makeup, doing my hair, something that I do every day. It's not new. I could do it automatic. I'm so used to it that I almost just sort of zone out and I'm just doing it, or I'm just focusing on that, and then I'll get an idea of something, or I'll think of a problem I've been having in a new way that I thought, oh, well, I could just do this. That might help it. And it's like, I feel like I get these great, even if it's not an idea, like perspective, I guess, on things that I've been dealing with when I'm doing my hair and makeup, which sounds silly, but
no, there are three
me.
things. There's three things that you could do. And if you would just change behaviors, you could practice a little bit more. If you're having a poop session, right? We all take our phones in there now, so we create a distraction where we don't let our mind wander and be bored and whatever, so that the poop session's ruined. Shower thoughts, right? You're in the shower. You've done it a million times. That's when your subconscious has the biggest voice. When you're doing something that is so, like, you've done 1,000 times. You're driving to work and you don't have the radio on and it's just silence. Then you get that vocalization from your subconscious. But you got to create those environments where you don't bring a distraction with you. Let your brain be bored for a minute so it has a chance to push that up to your conscious brain.
Ooh, I just did that actually this morning. I've been having not reoccurring dreams, but similar dreams all week long that have been bugging me. Like every night I have a dream that pisses me off. And I went to get in the shower this morning, and there's no phone, there's no kids, it's early in the morning, and I just woke up from the dream. And so I just sort of, in the shower while I'm getting ready, analyzed, well, how did I feel? Why did I feel that way? Well, is there a common theme in all of these when I get mad? And it was a good little session, I think, in my brain that sort of helped.
Yeah. And think about like when humans were evolving, right? You had night sky and walking across, the plains and whatever. Your brain could wander and you would have a better attachment with your subconscious. Think about how little time we have nothing to do except for the mundane pursuit without engaging some external force that then blocks all of that out. It's almost like light pollution, right? So when you have light pollution, there's stuff that you can't see because of the light that's it's diffusing out that what you could see. But you go to a super dark area, and even the things that were really dimly lit, you have a better visual of. And the same thing goes with mental stimulus. If you're overburdening your brain with too much stimulus, then you'll never hear the whispers of your intuition or the imagination, your creativity, and all you have is you have a brain that will actually rewire itself to give priority to non-enlightenment thoughts and more visceral aesthetic results.
Or I won't even trust that little twinge.
You wouldn't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to probably, through time, be harder to get people in an authentic state of hypnosis because the brain's just not geared that way or wired that way anymore.
Yeah. We're really destroying it with phones and
100%. And I can only proselytize it so much and tell people that about the chemicals that you get from phones and constant stimulation. But human beings just want to be 100% brain occupied with shit that is terrible for everything that's in there. And go ahead and add it up and see how much time was dedicated to something versus dedicated to nothing. How many times you put on your calendar, just wander off and try not to think about things. Like it never happens. If you're in a wandering mode, you're like, I got to do something here. I got to multitask in some way, and you ruin your brain.
Yep. That's so funny. I just, again, saw a video just this morning. This woman said, next time you're at the grocery store and you're waiting in line, maybe you're got to stand there for 5 to 10 minutes. Don't touch your phone. Just stand in the line. And she's like, you will see that you are really uncomfortable, that you are like, maybe starting to sway, maybe getting agitated, but don't look at your phone for just 5 minutes and just wait in a line. And she says the fact that that has become so difficult for us to do is like alarming. And it's true. I bet you if I had to sit in a line, I would look at it. If I was sitting around doing nothing, I'm sitting around doing nothing. Scroll endlessly, no reason, wasn't looking for anything. Just decided to do that rather than nothing.
Now, how about when you got two parts of the population? The people who ruin their brain through endless scrolling, right? And now are dumb and incapable of controlling themselves. And you got everyone over here who limited their exposure to the dramas of what was ever and actually utilized their brain. That split between incapable and capable, that dividing line is going to go like superpower over here, right? And total dependency over here. Now, should I feel bad for the other side when they become completely incapacitated and disconnected from all of their faculties? No.
So we did it to ourselves.
Yes, because I told everybody, everyone who would listen, I say, don't do that, right?
And I got a real eye-opener, too, last weekend when we went to this campground. And I told myself, all right, quiet weekend away. I'm going to unplug. I'm going to relax. I'm going to chill. I'm going to be out in nature. And considering, compared to my typical weekend or home life, it was. But I still brought the cell phone. I still had to make sure we were on Wi-Fi because, God forbid, my kids might need something or they're home with grandma and what if something happens? Even though we had a landline in the cabin, we gave them the phone number of the landline. I still was like, no, there could be an emergency. I got to have my phone.
It's an addiction.
It is. And then instead of just having it around, I still, and then I tell myself, well, I want pictures. It's beautiful here. I want pictures. But did I bring a camera? No. I brought my phone.
As an excuse to have the addictive little device.
And then sure enough, we'd be sitting there and instead of just sitting there, just doing nothing, just sure enough, here would come the social media. Or we actually watched the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight while there. I got to see what people on Facebook are saying about this fight. I got to see if other people are having internet issues. Why? I didn't have to see any of that.
It's an addiction.
But commercial would come on. What are you going to do? Sit here and watch a commercial? Heaven forbid. Let me pull that up again. It is. It was an eye-opener that we literally drove for hours to get away, and I brought it all with me.
Yep.
Dumb. Why do we do that?
Because we are addicted to it, and we are completely oblivious to being addicted to it, and we're unwilling because it's tolerated. It's not shunned. Like, I would like to embarrass you that you are addicted to a device that's feeding shit right into your ears and through your eyeballs.
It's awful. I know
and
it's awful.
I know you're going to do it again tonight.
Yep. And I keep thinking, like, well, back in the 90s or something, all we had is landline. So, again, landline. Nobody could have reached us before. People went out of town. People left their kids before, and they just had a landline in case of emergencies. So why can't I do it now? But if you think about it, most homes do not have landlines. It's all cell phone. Like, this is your only source to other people or in case of an emergency. So now we've even made it to where in some situations you have to have it.
You don't. That's another so here's the thing. Let's just say I'm an alcoholic, right? Mm-hmm. And I say, if I don't have it, I'm going to get sick, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't have it, I won't be able to have a good time. I won't be able to have relationships with other people. If I don't have it, I won't be able to enjoy my meals. I've wrapped my addiction in all these have-tos. And when I tell it to you, I actually believe it. But the other one person on the side of the table is like, no, you can just stop doing it. Get the addiction out of your system, and you'll find that you don't have to, and you can do relationships without it, and you can do food. But you wrap everything you do around your addiction, and it becomes necessary in everything that you do. You did that because it's a freaking addiction.
Yep.
And that's why
I'm an addict.
You are.
You
are. And so is everybody else. And I can't, like, if I tell somebody 10 times, right? Yeah. Then it's all on you. When there's repercussions for it, and you're stupid as a log, and can't get anything done without it, and I'm not in that territory, right? That was your fault from the beginning, and it's still your fault now. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you, just like the drunk, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, you had a DUI. If I didn't tell you 100 times that you didn't have to do it because you would feel sick, not be able to have relationships, and not be able to enjoy your food, that wouldn't happen. But you disagreed with me, so I said, F you.
I have noticed, and this is going to sound ridiculous, it's a baby step. It's a teeny tiny baby step. I have started putting it down in the evenings, rather than just sort of like mindlessly scrolling until I go to bed. I will, because I don't know if you're this way. Me and my friends, we like send reels and memes to each other constantly. And so when I'm getting ready for bed and I'm doing the act of like pajamas on, washing my face, getting ready, but I'm not actually going to bed for maybe another 30 minutes to an hour, I will check all the reels. I saw everything people sent me. My notifications are clear, and I put it down and I leave the room and I go watch TV or something. And that's it. And it's not much. It's a little bit at the end of the day, but I've been doing that in the evenings during the week instead of just holding it until I get in the bed.
Okay, so I'll share with you. So I drink 48 beers a day. And so what I did was the one beer that happens at 1:07, I'm now drinking a glass of water. You impressed?
I mean, if that's really hard for you to do, it's a baby step.
Okay.
Because then eventually you're going to be like, all right, now 2 of my beers in a day have become water.
If that is...
Well, that's the game plan,
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Give me... Okay, so if my goal is to not drink, right? Uh-huh. And not have it attached to all of my life and not make it a predicate to all of my enjoyment and whatever, what's your goal? To just do it less?
Less.
My goal
is less.
Like standard of too much and then 0. What's less?
I don't have 0 in my brain at all. Okay. I don't see that ever happening. Less. Like, I don't want to do it when we go out to dinner. You know, we always see those families that go out to a restaurant and all of them are staring at a device instead of each other. I don't want to do that.
So your threshold is to skip a dinner with no electronics then? That's the threshold.
Well, that's like another baby step I'm taking is.
Okay. So let me
Yeah.
stop you right there. And this is the New Year's I'm going to the gym thing.
Yeah.
Right? It is not something that you can stick with because you have to remember what you were doing. When it's an addiction, right? You're addicted to not exercising and having food that is very pleasurable. So you get all riled up for a period of time and you can keep enough motivation to get you through January, maybe February.
Yeah.
But then you forgot, especially when it's hard and you don't like it and you are bored and whatever, then it goes the other direction where it's like, well, I was only skipping like one beer at 107, right? I
Yeah.
don't really not want to do that anymore. And then next year, you're having the same conversation about, you should be doing something less, but you can't seem to do it because every addiction goes one way and it only goes the other way a little bit.
So what do you suggest? Cold turkey? Cut it
Yes.
all off?
The negative portions of it, you cut off.
The negative
Make it to zero,
portions.
yes.
Because, I mean, when it comes to it, the only reason I would even want to do less is just because I think, man, that's dumb. This is pathetic that we can't all get off our phones. Is it actually bothering me in any way? Not really. Is it ruining my life? Not really.
Right. I'm fine with my beer consumption. I know I probably shouldn't drink so much, and there are other people who don't drink as much. So for comparison's sake, I know I'm probably doing too much.
Yeah, I just tell myself, well, it's just not great for you, so I want to
So
cut back.
If it's the pursuit of health, then you figure out what your body needs and what's healthy, and you go up to the line of what is necessary, and you don't go because you can't handle doing more than is necessary, right? So if you're doing something in over the balance of what is you have to establish that. That's why I wanted to know where your standard was. So if it's like social media is poisoning my brain and ruining my brain, and you were like talking to a doctor and say, so how much of your brain do you want poisoned? The answer would be 0%.
Yeah.
No benefit, all downside. So I'm going to make that one be a 0, right?
Uh-huh.
And then if the one's like, oh, this actually has a positive, I'm going to do that one. You take all the ones that are on the negative side that aren't giving you a net benefit and not a justified net benefit, because your addiction is going to suggest that the food's not going to taste the same without my beer for sure, because it's going to be a connected, justified one. It has to be, do I need it? Are there other things I could drink while I'm eating my dinner? Right. And if I do it long enough, will I be able to enjoy my dinner? Oh, sure. If I go out with friends and they're drinking and I'm not, then I won't fit in. And then you do it long enough and you figure it out how to still do it without that thing being in there. So all the negative ones you remove, cold turkey, 0, and all the ones that are good you keep. That's it. And think of it this way. Best auditor in the world. I always think my biggest critic, right? The person who hates me, doesn't give me any benefit of the doubt. They're just mean to me any chance they get. They get to follow me around, look over my shoulder, watch what I'm doing all day. The ones that I would do in front of them, I keep doing. And the ones that they would be like, hey, dipshit, you're being stupid. Those are the ones I know that I'm not going to do. You don't have the chance. You can't negotiate or throw out your side because they don't give a shit. They hate you.
Yeah, they're going to spin it in a different light regardless.
Right. So when that auditor is standing behind you, you know when you should be doing it, right? And you know when you should be doing it. Let that person be the judge of it.
And then I go, well, screw you. I don't care what you think anyways. I'm going to just do it.
Because that's the addiction talking.
It is. It is.
But if we don't dance with it like it is an actual addiction, then we'll always figure a way to slide it in there. And if our motivations aren't trying to keep it out, it's going to be there, and it's probably going to be worse than it was before. You're ruining your brain, Kelin.
I know.
And you're doing it purposely, and nobody's going to feel bad for you when you got mush brain.
All right, listen. I have weird fears, weird song associations. I'm an addict. What do you got, Joe? There's going to be something.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Impulsiveness?
Impulsiveness?
So, all right, let's go back to the original.
Okay.
All right, so the golden ratio is nature's way of growing and develop. So you have two forces, right?
Okay.
You have order and you have chaos. Both are really necessary. Okay? So order is basically like, we love order. We like when things are categorized, they're in the right place. It feels better when we know things are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? The problem with order is it's extremely boring. And we were built for chaos. Like our brain wants chaos more than it wants order. When we have too much chaos, we want nothing but order. And when we have too much order, we want some chaos, right? And we live between those two deals. So think of it as currency. When you do something chaotic, right? You're adding energy and, passions about something. So what I do is I take that currency and I spend it on things that actually matter, right? It's the most unhealthy things that I do, but it fills that gap in what my brain needs, sort of like constructively instead of destructively. Now, if you take that same, thirst for chaos and you put it in a destructive path, you spend that currency, you get the dopamine from having done it, but then you don't have anything on the other side. You don't have a real meal, a real friendship. It's all inauthentic. So when I go impulsive, I go real big. Like I do order most of the time, but when I do chaos, I do it like a nuclear bomb, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I need to fill the gap, and depriving myself of daily chaoses is I wait till they really matter and they're really big and they have a good value proposition. I don't misspend them on stupid shit.
So you would create massive chaos?
On purpose. Scheduled, organized, deliberate chaos.
That almost sounds like a what's the word I'm looking for?
Contradiction?
Yes.
Yeah.
Scheduled, ordered chaos.
Yes. Scheduled, ordered chaos. That is on the
It
menu.
feels like it's not chaos.
No. Your connection with chaos is non-deliberate chaos. So you think of chaos as the victim of the circumstances that appear to you, and you don't have a connection with those things. So we'll say, if I take a grenade and I throw it in that box and I run away, that was chaotic. But I controlled the grenade, I controlled the throw, I controlled where it was, and I controlled the explosion. I knew everything that was going to happen, but I created enough energy in that moment to get out of it what I need. I don't need it to be a mysterious version of that. Like, I'm not going to do it with put something in my hand and I'll throw it and then I'll be surprised when it happens. That's chaos too, but that's destructive chaos because you didn't know what was going to happen. You did it on any purpose. It was just drama that you created that you got absolutely nothing from, but you got the same dopamine fix that I did. But mine had an end where it satisfied a real itch that I had. So it was focused.
The itch for chaos.
The itch for chaos. So you can do chaos better when there's a chance that it actually might do something productive for you.
Do you have an example?
Of something that I've done that's chaotic?
Yeah. That was like an organized, purposeful chaos.
I think we did one not too long ago. My goal was to meet 10 people that I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's chaos to
It's
you?
chaos.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, mystery unknown. I put myself in a room and I wandered until I met enough people to satisfy my goal of having met 10 people. That was chaos.
That's chaos.
Order would be, I'm going to schedule a meeting with Bob Smith at 1:00 at this place. That's order. So creating just enough chaos that you get the energy, because growth and development through the golden ratio means that you have these balances between death and life and expansion, and you get into territories that are new and you grew a new thing and had a new thing. You're going to spend that on things that actually have some kind of improvement. But the phone and all of those dramatic actions that we create to get that same dopamine have a zero. That's why people are so unfulfilled, right? Is that they're purchasing, they're using their entropy currency. And then when it comes to an actual entropic event that they need that could do something, their tolerance for risky entropy is like nothing, because they're so used to getting the dopamine off of stuff that's like, I know it's stupid, I know it was empty calories, and I know it wasn't going to do anything, but I did it anyway. So when it's time to take a real risk, they're like, I'm spent. Like,
yeah,
I got no more tolerances for taking any more energy in.
So really, chaos to you is just discomfort. Getting out of your comfort zone is chaos. Would you say?
Not just that, but that would be an example of doing something that I didn't have pinned down as knowing or whatever. Like if you took a probability and said, if you buy a lottery ticket, right, you might win or you might not win, right? There's calculable things, but you're not in control of the outcome, right? So there's some entropy in the mystery of a lottery ticket that you might or might not win, right?
Would you see chaos as like if you decided to get up one morning and have nothing planned, and you're like, maybe it's a weekday. I would typically go to work or go to a meeting or make these phone calls or do whatever. You're like, it's a weekday, and I don't know what I'm doing today.
That would be unguided, undirected chaos.
So that would not
I would
be...
not put myself in a situation where I could calculate that there were some potential goods that come from the thing that I'm doing.
So you would not get that same sort of dopamine fix. That would be too chaotic.
It wouldn't be it just wouldn't be appealing. Because I don't know that if you knew that you might win $1 million, the risk is worth some kind of reward on the other side. If you do a thing and you can't explain to your biggest critic behind you what the benefit of that is without using some kind of justification to your addiction, right? Then you can tell if you're serving an entropic event or you're serving the dopamine that you get from your addiction.
Well, if you were like, I like order, I like a routine, I like knowing what to expect, and I'm going to take a day where none of that is the case. That's not then
It's not really a thing. It's not entropic to me. It would be a wasted day.
Interesting. Okay. So you still have to sort of get a benefit from your chaos.
There has to be a potential benefit that I could explain to you before I do it. Yeah. And that's how it's organized.
But isn't the chaos the benefit that you're seeking?
Think of chaos. You're thinking of it sort of like a negative connotation. It's just energy, right?
Yeah.
We gravitate towards something that produce energy, right?
Uh-huh.
Energy, frequency, vibration. And so if the energy that's created in the action itself is not the same as the energy that's created for the benefit of that action. If you lift weights, you might grow muscle, right? But if you're like, I'm going to go lift weights, and you're like, ooh, I've never done it. You're addicted to the action, right? Instead of the benefit of the action. But if you can't articulate it, it means that it's not processing through the part of your brain that we were talking about before, is like the specter of, and the mystery about doing something is the addiction. The not knowing what's going to happen, right? And if it serves you well, if you take a bunch of risks and didn't know what could happen, if good things happen, that's a great experience, and you don't cancel your membership in April. So you go to the gym and you lose, pounds and you look better, right? Then you've satisfied the mystery. But if you go into the other side of it, and you're like, I want to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to do this and whatever, then you will be able to measure how you're doing. So it has to be absurdly great, right? Because there was no calculation to compare it against, versus I hit my marks and I did my thing.
It still feels like chaos is the wrong word. I don't know what the word is, but it still feels like you're in control. And chaos is not control.
If you put things on this desk, right?
Uh-huh.
And just show me the interactions between this. So I take a picture of a bunch of holes in front of you. There's a tension that goes, an energy that comes between this and that, right? That's energy. If you put that same thing in front of me, then it didn't cause any kind of mental, physical response. So there was less energy. So when you put two things in conjunction, connected to one another, there's energy that kind of goes back and forth between one another. That is entropy. When you keep them separated, you take two people that want to kill each other and you keep them in separate rooms, that's order. When you bring them within eyeshot of one another, you've created entropy. There's no chaos. I mean, technically from a sort of like a environmental space physics standpoint, that was entropy. That was chaos that you brought in there.
Chaos being the reaction.
The relationship between two objects and what it creates in you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like your definition of chaos meant that it's a negative connotation, this cloud of something.
Well, my definition of chaos is just it's like unharnessed, unpredictable reactions that have no, I don't even know the word. It's like a series of reactions that you can affect or change or control or...
Well, and you were right up into that last part, because there are different measurements of how much, like if we were quiet and let's just introduce a little bit of entropy. What you're saying is it's a binary thing where either you have order, which is on 1, or you have nothing but chaos, which is on 100. I'm saying that there is a spectrum of how much energy can be released into something. All right, so you can up the ante and say, I'm going to make you go to the gym, and I'm going to write a note card down that says, you're going to look beautiful if you go to the gym, right? That was a little bit of energy to get you to go to the gym. And then there's me on this side that's saying, here's my gun, I'm going to shoot you if you don't go to the gym. That would be a lot of entropy, a lot of energy, because one elicits just a little bit of nudging, and this one really makes you go do something, right? And there's every gradient in between.
Okay.
And when you have a relationship with that energy where it's not just you're on 0 and you go right to 100, and when you're done with 100 you go back to 0, right? It's not that's a binary relationship.
So your sort of controlled, planned out chaos is just doing a little.
Yeah, doing
it's
a little
not
bit.
Like going crazy.
Yeah, you could, and that's what I'm saying. You
little.
get the most amount of dopamine from making destructive chaos happen by putting it right on 100, and nobody enjoys it, but you get the chemical response because your brain just gets overwhelmed with the amount of variables and what's that called, stimulation, right? You get overwhelmed with the amount of stimulants that happen, where it's either going to be quiet and nothing or loud and screaming at you. But I'm suggesting that there's a gradient in between.
Okay, so with this, though, you're still very much in control.
You are.
So is there anything...
But really, the math is that if they're balancing deals, you have to oscillate between the two, right? So when you get order, you have to introduce chaos. You have to go back to order.
But you're introducing the chaos. You're
It's
still
on my
sort
terms.
of on...
I'm introducing the chaos that has a productive benefit.
Yeah.
And then once I create the chaos, I reorder it, which makes me back to reordered. And then I push it back into the chaos. And so you get a rope and you use an extension cord. Extension cord's a good example. Use the extension cord, that's chaos. And then you rope it up again, and now it's order. Now you can use it again and whatever. And you could say the benefit of having a cord that you can unwind is it becomes usable. And the cord that is completely wound up is not usable in its ordered state.
But you've never found yourself affected by something and you're not sure why, or you didn't cause that reaction, but you're having it? Or have you just done a lot of meditation and you figured it all out?
And I understand the question, and when you dial it back and it's not binary anymore, you try to find the exception. Right? Uh-huh. So what if you do this thing and this thing happens anyway, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's outwardly not in my control. Right. And I only do things that I can control. What if you do the right thing and you create order and there's more, or create a little bit of disorder and you get a whole lot of disorder, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't enter in it because that's not what I purchased. That's not what I bought. You repeat the process and you get a sort of like a confidence and trust in yourself that how much level of chaos you can handle without it becoming out of your control. So if you were to take a person that did none of that, and they're a victim of everything, and the world's completely out of their control, and everything seems to happen to them, and they have no hope because they have no control over their lives, right? Mm-hmm. So if you take me, that has some things get out of my control sometimes, versus everything's out of your control at all times, which would you prefer?
Some things.
Yeah. So it's not an absolute at all.
Okay.
But and the thing is, like, human beings, we don't know anything about our brains and how to use them. There's no guidebook for it. There's more misinformation than there is actual information. And even if we had the information, we wouldn't do it anyhow, right?
Yeah.
So we are already chaos. That, in a nutshell, is who we are, right? And that's why we conquer things and we have great innovations and we have great creativity, because we are built for chaos. Because if you ever see somebody who decides that they're not going to go to work anymore, they're going to go in the retirement home, they're going to just watch Jeopardy and whatever, what happens to them mentally and physically?
They deteriorate.
They die.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the body's like, oh, you're not going to do what I'm built for, I'm just going to go away. Or you don't lift weights, or you don't do anything, your muscles atrophy, and it's like, yeah, I'm done using these things.
Yep.
But the people who exercise them then they build those muscles up and they build capabilities up and they stay alive a lot longer. They don't check out because they constantly use those things.
Yeah, for sure. I've even heard people say you have to have like a sense of purpose or something. A lot of times someone will they retire, and if they don't get a hobby or a part-time something to do, then they start going downhill.
Yeah. But from a philosophical point of view, if you told somebody that they were both things, like they were a destructive person and they were a constructive person, and I'm like, okay, I'll check that out. Naturally, this is my biology. My brain's going to be wired to create destructive things and constructive things. And you make a list of the things you want to do and the things that you don't want to do. And you just give yourself a prescription of the things that you want to do versus the only difference is budgeting, right? That's really all this comes down to is everything's a budget. If you don't decide what you want to eat and then you just follow your whims, what are the chances that it's going to be healthy versus unhealthy, right? It's better chances it's going to be unhealthy. Think about that in every other facet, right? If you just do your finances and you just follow the whims, are you going to be in good shape or bad shape? So all paths would lead to we are a destructive creature who is on our way of dying, and we destroy things along that way. Mm-hmm. And we need other people to stop us from being destructive versus figuring that out about ourselves and not allowing ourselves to be destructive.
So kind of like, you hear people all the time say, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to get healthier. Okay, well, don't eat this today, but I really want it. And they do it. Or why don't you go for a walk? Oh, well, it's crappy out and it's cold and it's dark and I don't want to. So then in comes either personal trainer, or dietitian, or a support group that has to be like, hey, now we got to stop you from making excuses and do these things or not do these things to save yourself.
But we have a brain capable of self-control and telling ourselves what to do if we can say, I'm not going to do this thing, and we listen to ourselves. But we don't.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
So there's another reality that comes. We want to be independent, right? Which means that we get to be the boss of ourselves. But we also want to hold other people responsible for having made us do things we didn't really want to do. So we get to blame them. We can blame an industry. We can blame our parents. We can blame people. And when we're the boss and we have now the responsibility of making good decisions that benefit us or making decisions that don't, which ones that do we really go with? Like, not everybody was built to be the boss.
I know.
If some people need to be subordinate to other people because they're a bad decision maker.
Some people just got to be the child forever and they need supervision.
Yeah. And I'm only suggesting that if you figure enough out about who you are and how your brain works, that you can be a good boss over yourself. But if you want to be oblivious to how these things operate and just wander through, the whims are going to take you where they're going to take you. And I guarantee it, I'll write it on a sheet of paper and bet you $1 million. If you just follow the whims, you will not be in a better place. That is not how our biology has worked. We will crave the chaos that ends with your phone wasting all of your great family time and great creative expressions. Think of all the limiting factors that thing is starving you from, that you get 30 years in the future and you're going to say, what was I doing on that day where I could have been spending doing this, doing this, doing this? You're aware of it because you got good intuition, and now you're going to have is regret. How not in the moment that I didn't see this enlightenment.
Oh, yeah. I was just talking with someone the other day. We were telling a younger person about when we were kids in the 90s, and we're like, what a great time it was. And this younger person literally said, what? You had dial-up. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have this. You didn't have that. How was that better? And we're like, it was. Not having that was better. Things were more fun. Things were more active. We did things. We went out. We used our imaginations. We had relationships. We had fun. We didn't
And they weren't better, okay? Because if you plopped you down in there, you would suffer just like you're suffering now. Because it wasn't the situations that were healthier. It was you were healthier when you were in those situations.
Yeah, because I didn't have the vices that I have now.
And so you can become that same health that you had. You are in control of that. You're the boss of this. That all you would have to do is think, what is everything I was doing and do that, and you will enter that same phase. You don't get to blame the internet or the other people or the social pressures to do it. You can go be healthier. But we won't hold ourselves accountable that we are creating the misery that we are experiencing right now. So if it takes a little guilt that says you're starving your children and your husband and your pets and your family, right, from what you used to experience when you were a kid, you did that on purpose. As soon as I tell you do it, it's on you now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my husband and I were just saying with our kids, so they have phones that are not active. Like, they're not on social media. They can't use it for things that regular phones can be used for. But there's some stuff. They can do games on it. They can message their friends on it, things like that. And even just that little bit, they are now on them all the time.
Yep.
And attitudes are getting worse, and fighting is occurring more often. And I finally looked at my husband the other day and I said, we can't get mad at them for acting a certain way when we give it to them and we let them do it.
And model it for them.
Yes. And I'm like, how many times have I said, let's not be on devices in the morning when they're getting ready for school?
Can't follow through with it.
Yeah, like, let's not be on it at dinner time when we're all sitting here together. Let's talk instead. Let's not be on it until bed. Like, let's just not be on it all the time. Maybe start with designated times, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, Joe. I'm putting this into place. My kids are going to be upset, but you know what? We're cutting back. We're all cutting back. Somehow.
All right. So let me give you the last part of advice before we wrap up here.
Okay.
So when we're talking about the gym or the finances or our security, right? We use negative emotions to give us most of our motivation.
Yeah.
All right. So your house gets robbed and you all of a sudden are inspired to put an alarm system. Like, most alarms get installed right after a burglary because we waited for a negative thing to come and push us into it. That is the big volume motivator, is a bad action.
Yep.
And with family and whatever, usually takes somebody some bad moment, some guilt, some negative. So we're being governed by all of the vices, all of the negative emotions to push us into our motivation. Did you know that you could take positive emotions and they serve as the same kind of energy and fuel that can make those things happen on your terms for productive means?
Kind of like when I see results of my exercising and healthy eating habits, then I want to do it more.
No, that would be experiencing a benefit. When a motivator is what makes you get off the couch and do a thing, right? The motivation of guilt or shame or anger or whatever, those are all negative. The inspirers that most people follow, as far as when I said those whims, your emotions are forcing you into it because of bad feelings, right? Well, you can do all those things on your terms before you have to, before there's any repercussions, that there's actual benefits. If you take the same emotions over here, right, and find their positive equivalent over here and be only pushed and motivated by positive influences. So that would be a good acid test to what's motivating you. And if you're solely being motivated by the negative factors, I can 100% tell you that if what made you go to the gym was negative, it will wear off and you will not follow through.
So basically, the difference between I'm going to work out and eat healthy because I want to lose weight, I feel like I'm fat and lazy and I need to get in shape,
Negative
versus
motivators.
I'm going to eat healthy and go to the gym because I might live longer, my body will move more easily, I'll have more energy, I'll sleep better.
As long as you don't mask them.
Mask them.
Yeah.
Like
Masking so that you take a negative and you just put the positive spin on something. The negative is what came to your brain and you program the negative. So being sick, right? If being sick is what you want, but you don't want to say the word sick made me do this, then you say something like, I want to be healthy, right? And that way it's just masked it. You said the same thing. Your brain understood the same thing. You want to avoid a negative, and that's what's motivating you. It's the same thing if you just said the negative thing.
Yeah.
But if you take a positive emotion, like our family, we are pursuing things that we need, because we all want to just be healthy in every department that we work. We didn't take an instance that made us say a positive thing. We took a positive thing and made it our motivator.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
have to do this. I do it because I pursue all healthy, logical, net benefit actions.
So you sort of lead with benefits rather than actions.
Be motivated by benefits. Yeah.
Not, I'm going to do these actions because of these benefits. It's, I want a life that includes things, so I'll do things that get me there.
Yeah. I want to save $1 in a jar so I have $365. It might have originated where you needed something that cost $365 and you didn't have it, right? That'd be influenced by a negative. But if you're just like, you know what? I see that jar over there, and I wonder if I put $1 in there every single day, that at the end of the year I have $365 and I could go spend it on something. I don't even know what that thing is right now, but I'm going to go do that thing. I'm in control of me. I can follow through. There's no upside. There's no downside. I'm just going to do it because I told myself to. That would be motivated by something that was healthy. You had self-control. Then you have a benefit down the road. You didn't have to goat yourself or reward yourself to be able to do it. You just follow the positive feelings, emotions, and motivations that get you to an end. Right. And what you'll find is that when you remove all of those negative things, those victim things, those drama things, those negative influences, those motivators reduce themselves, just like when you stop eating sugar, normal things that weren't even sweet before start tasting sweeter.
Yeah.
Right. Those other things become your new, like in my case, my new impulses, or my new passions come from things that don't have upside downside, but are net measurable good. So I just do all those things. Yeah, but what if you saved that 365 and you couldn't come up with something and you didn't have anywhere to spend on it? And what about if you don't have it for one day? And the negative mind is always digging for the exception.
Interesting.
Reprogramming this thing. Think about it. Your neurons are constantly reorienting themselves based on what you repeat through them. And if you can repeat the good things through them, they become more solid. And right now we have fully developed negative side, vice, dopamine-fueled brains. And so it's no surprise that we always feel like the world's totally out of our control and the things that Joe's talking about can't even be done until Joe comes up behind you and just tells you everything you're doing wrong. Just stop doing those things.
If everybody just had a Joe that they could just take with them every day, imagine what this world would be like.
But think if you could take somebody that complained about never having money and just walk through them every day. And at the end of a month, would their situation be different if they just had you looking over their shoulder? The only difference is when you're not there, they're not going to make decisions based on when you are there. So you have to then put your brain in their brain, right?
Yeah.
Convince them, motivate them, change their wiring. And what are the chances when you left that they would continue what you told them to do?
It'd have to be doing it a while.
0%.
You'd have to really get in there for a long time.
Because there wouldn't be that accountability, because they were only doing it because you were there.
Yeah.
I want people to be healthy and do things no matter that's what integrity is. Like, you do the right thing no matter if someone's watching or not. So if no one's watching and you throw the pie in the face, right?
Yeah.
Nobody saw you do it. They're not going to out you, but you saw it.
Yeah.
And you didn't, object.
So what would you count it if you started doing a healthy habit?
Yeah.
Because of a negative emotion.
Yeah.
You didn't like something. You didn't like the way you felt, whatever. Maybe you started then eating healthy, doing healthier. And then through that change, that action, you saw results and you liked them and you wanted more and you kept doing it and you kept seeing improvement. You wanted more and you kept doing it. Are you still motivated by negativity?
I would call it a catalyst, not a motivator.
Okay.
So a catalyst is that jump start that makes you do something in a certain direction and your benefit. It's just not the better way of doing it. So let me ask you the same question. So I want to run marathons and I have two choices. Do everything the marathon runner, look at a marathon runner, people who run it, and take everything that they do, right? Mm-hmm. Or take someone who doesn't run marathons and pick through the marathon guys, pick the ones that they don't like out of there, and only do the ones that you feel like doing or think you can do or whatever. What gives you the best chance of not quitting the gym membership? Well, if you just did everything over here, it's a 1-for-1, right? And you would become a marathon runner the longer that you do everything a marathon runner does. You don't have to find the exception, the one how you're unique and you're different, and you can take, the brain's chemicals and all of human evolutionary history, and somehow you're strong enough to short circuit it, right?
Yeah.
Does not the case. So if you have a sure thing, would you take the risk of making it not a sure thing when you know the drama of disappointment is if you end up being wrong, right? So if you're like, I kind of like my negative feelings and they kind of jolt me into performance, can I convert some of these, unhealthy catalysts into doing things? Or can I be like, all right, I know I need to make some changes, and I know these things are pushing and pulling me in my brain, and I'll listen to them, and I'll go to the gym for a little bit. I could maybe make it to the end line, the finish line, where I can keep the gym membership. But the seed of origin wasn't really doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. I kind of hacked a way that had a high probability of failure. Versus this way, we're like, okay, I submit. Did some wrong things, right? Poisoned my brain. Doing some wrong behaviors. So I'm just going to decide I'm going to do all kind of good behaviors. You have a 1-for-1 shot. If you do all healthy, solid things, you become healthy and solid person. You don't have to hack it at all. Just follow the healthy thing 100%. You have to worry about it high probability. Why would you do that? Why would you give yourself worse odds?
So yeah, it's really just changing the way you're looking at it then.
That's it.
You're not motivated by something you're trying to escape from.
That's it. Your inspiration and motivation are going to come from that origin. The catalyst gets you jolted, but the motivation, inspiration are what makes you bought in.
Okay.
Negative will buy you in for a short term and you'll cancel your gym membership. Mm-hmm. Healthy means that you'll make incremental changes to better health and you'll become the marathon runner, and you'll wake up and think, man, I can remember when I couldn't even run a mile.
So this could be, here's an example. This actually happened this morning. I was jazzed because I realized that November marks 1 year that I have kept off 10 pounds. Mm-hmm. 10 pounds left me and stayed gone for a year. And I can remember making the conscious decision a year ago, rather than I want to lose weight or I want to, I should start eating better, I feel like crap all the time, and blah, blah, blah. I literally just said, I want to be a different person. Mm-hmm. I want to be a person that eats this way. I want to be a person that does these things.
Yep.
And that's what I'm going to be. Starting now, I'm a different person than I used to be. And that really did just like, if there was some other temptation, it was like, well, I don't do that. I'm not a person who eats that. I'm not a person who does that. I'm this person, so I'm going to do this. Rather than, oh, I can't. Oh, I'll get fat.
Yeah, because the currency of that negative energy that creates the entropy has no chance of giving you a positive feedback loop, right? It's all negative. And once you break out of that and you're just like, I'm just going to generally do the right thing. I'm going to just tell the truth. Yeah, but what about in this circumstance? I'm just going to tell the truth. I'm going to be motivated by I want to be a truth teller, so I'm just going to always tell the truth. Yeah, but what if it gets you in trouble and this person's feeling gets hurt and whatever? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to be a truth teller.
I like it.
And that's there's a book that I read. I don't even remember the title. And one of the exercises in the book was to take all of the vices and literally write down all of the vices. Okay? Uh-huh. And fear and anxiety and hatred and jealousy, and write them all down. And they said, now, without them telling you what was going on, what do you think the antidotes to each one of those things are? Okay? Uh-huh. See if you can guess, not you, but see if you can guess which one is the counterbalance to each one of those negative things. And it was a struggle to figure out which ones were connected. And then they obviously told you, and when you wrote them down, they made absolute sense of like, you have a choice. You can either be ruled by anger or you can be ruled by love. Which should you choose? It's pretty obvious once you have those two sitting next to it. I've been motivated by anger before, and I've been motivated by love before. Both of them had connective energies between the two. And I don't want to be motivated and do things out of anger, but I do want to do things out of love. And the things that I acted on that I can now convert and say, okay, I did this thing because I got mad about blah, blah, blah. And this, like, how do I then convert it over and now make sure that I'm doing these things, but doing it out of love? And, going through that battle, your brain was like, hey, anger is the more powerful exercise. It gives you your thing right away. I punch you in the face and get what I want. The other way it takes longer and there's more invested, it's more responsibility, you get less dopamine and whatever. And that is the point. That is the most eye-opening exercise that I did because my brain was gravitating towards all the effective emotions that made themselves to be a catalyst to make me do things. When I took them off the table anymore, right? I couldn't use them anymore. They were not there. I had to use all of these ones. It's harder to figure out how to do something out of love than it is out of anger.
I heard once that venting, you hear a lot of people be like, I just got to vent this. I got to get this out. I do it all the time. Something will eat at me. Something will keep bugging me. I'll keep thinking about something. I'm like, can I just vent this and get it out? And I think I'm getting it out and I'm ridding it and I'm fine. I've heard that people who research this, I guess, say you actually don't. That when you vent something and you give it that attention and anger, you actually will feel worse than if you had not. And I wonder if that's true. Like if you just like
for sure
didn't say, all these things are irritating me and bugging me. I used to think I'm going to explode if I don't say something. And they said, actually, when you do, you will feel worse than if you try to just start thinking of other things.
You're 100% right.
I'm going to have to try that.
On paper, on paper, let's take the natural body, right? Mm-hmm. Does the natural body need to vent? Venting means that you fill up with something over capacity and you got to get rid of it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are over capacity and you're noticing what your capacity is, why did you put too much into that tank to begin with, right? So is the problem that you went over capacity, or is the problem that you're not managing your capacities or don't know what's in your capacities, right? So if you spend all your bank account down to zero, right? When did the problem happen? At the beginning, right? Or the end? The end was when the problem happened. So you have to vent, right? You have to go borrow money or get some fill in from somebody else because the problem already been made. And that's where, as human beings, we don't want people to tell us advice from the beginning. We want to do it our way, make our mistakes. But then when we make our mistakes, we want to give the mistakes out to the rest of the world so people will, feel sorry for us and sympathize with our plight. We get a response from that. Like, then people are going to tell you, oh, it's not your fault. You sit with me, and I'm going to tell you it's your freaking fault. And you should have told me at the beginning of baking a cake what ingredients you should use. If you bring me in at the end after the cake's been, just total clustered, right? I'm not useful there. You weren't looking to collect information and need me at the beginning, so you don't need me at the end. And you couple that with, like, on social media, when you ever have those people that they seem to, everything that bad happens to them, they give you a full accounting so that everybody, like, sympathizes and gives them all of that victim response. You know those people?
Yeah.
They live for that. That's them venting. That's them saying, and you know what happens on a subconscious level? Subconscious then really liked what they got from that. So it cooks up more instances so that it can deliver that victim quality and get those responses. So then you get on this negative feedback loop where it seems like no matter anything you touch turns to shit. So you can go out and tell people about it, and then they will give you feelings that feel good. And then you're just going to repeat the cycle. Yeah. So if you really like being that victim strata, keep doing it because it just, basically, you spent the currency to buy you some more. But if you do the opposite, deprive yourself of that. So one of the examples I give you on a regular basis, you're driving down the road. You see someone pulled over on the side with a flat tire, right? Deprive yourself of paying attention to the fender bender or the whatever, unless you are going to physically yourself right now help. If you're looking out to help people, then for sure, observe the data so that you can help more people. If you're looking to gawk and look at the drama, then you're negatively influencing and you're just looking at someone else's misery and you're getting a dopamine response as if it were your misery. So you get to shop from the chemical factory that is your brain, and you don't have to have the flat tire in order for that to happen.
Because if I see an accident, I know I can't pull over. There's first responders there. I can't do anything, but I'm going to be like,
but if you can deprive yourself of that gaze, right? Then that is step one. Ooh. But it's so long that you're like, "Hey guys, I had a really bad day," and everybody's like, "Oh," right? Deprive yourself if you have something, and you're like, "I have two choices: tell the world about it so I get some sympathy, or do something about it and use my energy into fixing a problem. And then the next time around, right, if you don't do this one, you won't know that it felt good, and the receptors will grow themselves differently. And then so your only option is I feel good when I made a checklist that said how I was going to fix the problem, and I followed through, and I made my world better, and I improved my life. It's a totally different thing. This you feel about something that is measurably better. This one, you got a sugar dose of the dopamine, and your life's still in freaking shambles, and you're just going to be delivered some more victimness.
So would you say when you're in these situations where something's building, and typically you would then need to vent, don't let something build and build, fix the problems as you go?
Yeah. Mark it off as the problem. And where did I go wrong? Did I not ask for enough help? Did I not have relationships where people were working on common goals with me? And if you get to the end where you need to vent, you already made 97 mistakes. So then you can go back and say, which of these 97 things, so that I don't have to vent again, right? I wanted to look at the car crash, right? I wanted to look at the person with really not even caring that. What made me want to do that? Okay, there's 5,000 things that I programmed myself, or I, acted on the whims of my chemical imbalances in my brain. Can I do something about it? What can I do today to make it so that I don't want to look at that car crash, or I don't want to ask at the end of something when I didn't take anybody's advisement going into it? I made those mistakes. That was me. Now I could do something about it.
That's going to be a tough one too.
For all people. Unless you're on purpose doing this will never happen through instinct unless you're reprogrammed to do it. Won't happen. We're human beings. We live for the destruction. Human beings are probably built to last about 20 years, right? Why?
20 years?
20 years.
Holy cow.
Okay? Because we have the creativity and energy in us to be both constructive and destructive. We'll fight battles. We'll build things that are dangerous. We'll venture into places we have no business being there. So what's keeping human beings alive? Structure. Depending on people that are stronger than we are to keep us from going outside of our bubble and feeding all of our instincts of discovery and innovations and danger, right? And we're getting it through phones. And so we're getting the payoff, right, in our little bubble, and we're breaking ourselves.
Dang. This is deep.
Yeah. You go to the zoo, you don't feed the lions, right?
Yeah.
Because and why don't you feed the lions? Because if they, I'm sorry, not the zoo, like the rehab place.
Yeah.
You don't get them dependent on you because they've got killer instincts. Okay. And they were built for that. And when you take that out of them, they live fat and they're in a place, they're alive, technically. Yeah. And they maybe give them some stimulations that sometimes take their primitive instincts and peak them. But for the most part, they're not really alive. And that's kind of where we're at. We're in the zoo. We're in the rehab deal. But we've been fed and we're completely dependent on, external stimulus being granted to us instead of us having to fight for it.
And if it were all taken away, are we doomed?
What?
Just
if we could put...
Yeah.
I put you on a deserted island, no preparation. Are you living or dying?
That's my hell.
Deserted island, you're dead, right?
Yeah.
So, but can you build a strong version of Kelin that knows enough and does enough and is self-sufficient enough and is disciplined enough that could be put on the deserted island and survive? Of course, because there are people that have been on deserted islands, got rescued a year later, right? Yeah. So it's possible. Now I'm going to say they're the marathon runner. What does a marathon runner do? Do everything that person that got rescued did, and you will become a person that can survive a deserted island. Because in our cage, it's all developed by us. And we don't really, we're captive, but we don't have to stay there. We can leave, unlike the lions who are kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
We don't have to. All we have to do is heed my advice that I'm giving you right now and break away from not knowing about how your brain works and how your body works and what natural primitive instincts will make you better. Like you could take go back in time to somebody who's in a small caravan across the United States where there's no civilization whatsoever. They're going to die from something. Indians or poison or falling off a cliff or, dysentery. Yeah, I got to do dysentery. So now you, with your sophisticated brain, go to that person and say, here's how you don't die. Right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give the almost 20-year-old who's probably going to die soon?
In that example or in like a real life example?
Just
Or?
whatever comes to your brain. I know what I'm going to tell him because that's what I started this show off with.
Now I'm trying to think of what you're going to tell him.
No, don't worry about me. You just do you.
All right, don't die because you gotta eat right. You gotta make healthy choices so you don't die. You're gonna say you gotta focus on the positive, not the negative motivators.
Why are you trying to fill in what I'm going to say?
I don't know because you said I know what I'm gonna say, and now I'm trying to figure
All
out
right,
what
do you
you're
think
gonna
the
say.
20-year-old is tougher than you? A better survivalist?
Maybe.
Yeah. If you have gotten by to almost 20 in primitive environments where you had to survive, then you have developed primitive instincts. So
Yeah.
all I would need to do is take a badass who knows how to survive and bolt on some sophistication, right? I would say, I would tell this person, you live in an environment where you don't have plumbing and you don't have internet and you don't have a car. You're going to have to do harder things than most people. You're going to have to take risks that put you in danger. So what I would do is calculate your risks. Before you go do something, be a planner. Know more about what you're about to do and reduce the odds of you dying because your odds are really high. Your odds not high, this person's odds is real high. So you got to take a chaotic environment, right? And order it. Give it some structure. Right? So if that's the case for primitive, like we're both built from the same genes, we both have the same primitive instincts. One just has one department more developed and the other has the other department. So all you have to do is then have this person come to you and give you advice on how to not be serving a sentence in your bubble.
Yeah.
What advice would they give you if it's the exact opposite of what I just said?
I gotta cut off everything that's keeping me in that bubble. Don't even start it.
He would tell you,
Well.
it's like you went through your whole day and you didn't do anything meaningful or risky. You
Yeah.
need to take more risk and reduce your calculations on whatever phone, whatever plumbing, whatever thing is keeping you caged as
Yeah.
your master. Be more primitive. So you need to be more primitive, and this dude needs to be more sophisticated, and it's a balance and a hybrid between the two. Your wheels turning?
Yeah, I'm thinking I gotta go try that weekend away again and not. I gotta be more primitive.
Well, how do I know that you won't ever do that, like, for real? Like, you'll have flirts with this, for sure.
Yeah, it's not gonna be like a. No, there would be way too much anxiety. Like I wouldn't even be able to relax or anything. I'd be like, I have to have my something. I have to have my connection, my safety net, so to speak. Cold turkey is very difficult for anything.
It's exactly why I know you won't do it
Yeah.
or can't do it.
Maybe not can't ever, but I'd have to work up to it.
Mathematically, it's a can't ever.
I probably, if I really, really tried, I could do it. I wouldn't like it. I would be stressed. I'd be doing it just to say I did it, not like, not thriving in that environment.
Okay.
But I can work towards it. Baby step. Baby step.
But say what you said originally that said that would be your positive motivator is that you want to be healthy.
Yeah.
And only adding things that are necessary and reducing the things that have a negative or a zero net benefit.
So you basically just like, I want to be different. I want to be a person that is not connected to that.
Yeah. So, the addiction breaks on its own if you just give things that are healthy. So if you said, I don't want to eat anything that's not necessary. So you add up your calories, what nutrients you need, and you don't allow or disallow things. You just wrote down what you want and what you need, and you do the things that you want. So you don't like break your diet. You really don't have a diet other than I have a list of things that I want to eat. And then you become healthier, not as the objective, as a symptom of saying, I want to be healthy in all aspects. So the minute that you're like, I did really well on the health thing, let me eat pie, then you fail the original test, which is that healthy? Yes, no. If it's healthy, you do it. If it's not healthy, you don't do it. The justification that says, let me introduce something that I don't want in there for the dopamine response that I get for having risked something, right? I get that, I'm being a rebel here, right? And it's so long that you have that rebel will say that you will never do this because it's not a one question. I want to be healthier in my brain stimulation. Do healthy things, cut out all unhealthy things. Because I would believe you if you said, I'm going to pay attention to everything that I do in a day, right? I'm going to list it out. And I'm going to look through reasonable eyes and say the ones that had a legitimate, unjustified net benefit. And then I struck out the ones that I knew were just terrible for me. And so I'm going to continue doing the ones that I know make me healthy, and I'm going to get rid of all the ones that don't. So you didn't throw it away. You didn't light it on fire.
Yeah.
Right? What you did is you lit some of them on fire. And the ones that you knew were bad to begin with. Just like if we did a budget. If I go through your day, take everything you spent on, draw a line to the ones that you really want to do and have to do. And the ones were just frivolous and you just got some justified I had tos on it. Just don't do those ones anymore. It's simple. Make a list. Follow through on the ones that make you healthy. And you get to the end of the day and you lay out all your healthy lists. Financial, spiritual, relational, financial, mental, whatever. Any list that you want to have where you want to be healthier. And if you have a grade of I did all the things that made me healthy and I didn't, that is your measurable standard of what makes you healthy or not. Did I introduce unhealthy things for no reason? Then I am not healthy in that department and I get to try this again. If I did all the things that were healthy and I listened to myself and I had the disciplines, now I'm healthy as defined by the piece of paper that's sitting in front of me. That is order and chaos.
I'm laughing because I literally ate pie the other day. But only a little bit compared to what old Kelin would have done. And it's not every day. But I see your point. Get it.